So how much of this is real, though? How much can we consider that in this particular case, neither x or y2 are wrong or inaccurate? Okay, and in each case, okay, what y is doing is the truth here and here as well. The question and the way to look at that is, how much can x influence y, and how much can y squared influence? How much can they influence the y that they're perceiving? And when they do influence that, or when they do interact with that, okay, how consistent does that have to be with the actual event in order to affect that? Because when we're talking about slight details, when we're talking about color, all right, we understand that there's a certain range of the variation. There's a certain range of the experience where you're still dealing with. Somewhere in here is the truth of y, all right? We're just, for lack of better words, or just to make things simple, somewhere here is the truth of y, and, okay, for x, and somewhere over here, this is the in fact, this parameters that I'm drawing here, in between the parameters here, okay, that's the range of truth for y, okay? X perceives y over here, and he can still make most accurate. We could still have most of his experiences and his predictions and whatnot can be accurate about y. And y2 might experience it right over here, and so there and there on the line or whatever, and those, again, most of the experiences and perception of and what he perceives for y will be accurate. Anybody who perceives something, okay, out here, that should have been n. I think I remember I put that as n last time. Anyway, so anybody who experiences anything here or here, okay, outside of the parameters, okay, have crossed the threshold and are more inaccurate than accurate, okay, when we're talking about our range. So, what does that mean? What does that mean? If n, okay, fires a bullet at y, and x perceives it as the wind blowing, and x acts accordingly to the wind by doing much nothing, right? And y gets hit with the bullet because the perception, okay, was too off, was too inaccurate. It crossed the threshold. X's connection, X's to this experience was too far, too inaccurate. We understand that? So we see that we start to see that in this frame of reference, there's actually a range of how X can properly or effectively or actually influence and alter and interact with y, and then there's another part of that range where X can't. Okay, so we're starting to understand that this frame of reference is limited. This frame of reference, okay, is not. This frame of reference is not as exclusive, or it's not as identical to the actual source, okay, y. And the same would go for y2. So these are not, okay, if you cut them off, okay, if you cut them off, what is y? If you cut these off from the source, would the y in here, okay, keep doing its own thing? Would the y still operate? Well, that's funny. Because if the y would still operate and you cut the connection off, okay, you cut the connection off, right? That's like saying each one is a source. Each y is the source. So each y is just as real. The problem with doing that is because there would be no continuity, there would be no consistency through the experience. So if all three of these people were in the same room and y behaved as the source in each person's frame of reference, y's, x's, and y square, okay, it behaved like the source, you'd have no continuity. In the actual party, in the actual room, in the living room, x swears that y went and got a drink, and y square swears that y is dancing on the dance floor. These things don't happen dominantly. These things don't happen in a large amount. Okay, of course we have perceptions and stuff like that, but they don't happen like that. You would have no continuity of any experience, and you'd never even be able to go to the store, exchange anything, touch anybody, or purchase anything. You'd get up out of your chair to go walk to the wall, and then suddenly the wall would disappear. But that's not the case. A continuity does happen. So we must look at things in terms of a source. We must look at things at least in terms of a focal point, a dominant area, okay, and then the range. These could totally switch. Priorities could switch. Sure they can, and they do. They go back and forth at probably light speeds. They go back and forth not only at light speeds, but when we're talking about neurology and the neurological experience that's shared between the interaction, okay, they also go back and forth under those synaptic conditions. Okay, so we're talking about millions of impulses going back and forth. And each one is confirming the other. So at all times, that range is constantly being defined. All right? Constantly being defined, constantly being altered, constantly being targeted and hit, and constantly being missed. And when it misses, okay, this is also adjusting then.